Becky G being cast as Trini Kwan in the 2017 Power Rangers movie is probably the best Power Rangers casting in the last 10 years, and I'm going to tell you why. Do you know what time it is? Welcome to the Legacy of Nerd. My name is Daniel, and yes, I know I started off with a super bold statement that Becky G being cast as Trini Kwan in 2017's Power Rangers movie was the best casting in Power Rangers in the last 10 years. You got to look at it, and it really, really was. I posted this exact thing on Facebook, and I got thousands of responses, like a lot. And it was everything from, oh my God, yes, to absolutely no way. And I think it's because this movie elicits so many opinions. And everybody has an idea about the movie, and it's very personable to them. So looking at this cast, we start at the top. We got Bryan Cranston as Zordon. We have an Oscar winner playing Zordon. And then we got Elizabeth Banks playing Rita Repulsa, and it was like an absolute perfect fit and a great reimagining of Rita Repulsa. Now with the Rangers themselves, we got Dacre Montgomery playing Jason, who went on to play Billy in Stranger Things and had been most recently in the Elvis movie. We got Naomi Scott, who played the live action Princess Jasmine, but was also Kimberly in Power Rangers. We got Ludi Lin, who was Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat, and it's going to be in the sequel as well. And he played Zach Taylor in Power Rangers. And then we got RJ Cyler, who played Billy, the Blue Ranger in this movie, but he went off. He's been on so many movies, and he's on HBO Max right now, and I really can't say the name of it because there's a curse word right in it, but he was like really like the heart and soul of the movie. And then we look at Becky G. Becky G was probably the most well-known person to be cast as a Power Ranger in this movie before she was cast. So she was already doing music, she was doing pop, she had done a couple of TV shows and commercials and stuff like that. But this was like going to be like her first like really big role. She had been in that movie, or I'm sorry, she had been in that TV show Empire, if you remember that, with Terrence Howard, and it was about music and stuff like that. And she had done plenty of music before then. But like I said, this was going to be her like first breakout role. The character she was playing was Trini Kwan, and she's Becky G. And Becky G is clearly Latina, and Trini Kwan in the original 1993 Power Rangers was obviously Asian. She was Asian character. So a lot of people had opinions on that right away at casting because they're like, she's playing Trini Kwan. Like, they're changing everything. And they changed a lot of the ethnicities of each Ranger, you know, Ludi Lim and RJ Kryler, like those were not obviously matching towards Billy and Zach in the original 1993. But Becky G playing Trini, and especially because of the story of Thuy Trang, who played Trini, the original Yellow Ranger, we all know she was on for the first season. She went on for the half of the second season until she left with Austin St. John and Walter E. Jones due to basically low pay. And they were standing up for themselves. She was the only Ranger not to really come back. Walter had done voices. Austin St. John came back in Power Rangers Zeo. But Thuy Trang really never came back. And then unfortunately, she passed away in 2001 in a car accident caused by a drunk driver. So she was our first Power Ranger that we lost. And she is one of our originals. And a lot of people had opinions about that because, you know, they wanted Thuy Trang to be memorialized much more. And they felt like Becky G playing Trini Kwan, like that was already off, like just from the casting, right? And so that was an issue. And I think a lot of the issues from the 2017 Power Rangers movie to the original 1993 Power Rangers is that the movie is almost like an homage to the TV show, but it is definitely not like a direct representation or a direct modernization. It had its own story to tell. The characters were different. And that is the big thing right here with Trini. Her character was a lot more complex than the Trini Kwan in 1993. So we see like Becky G playing an almost like angry character. Like at the beginning of this movie, she did not want to be friends with the other Rangers. Like she was off on her own. She was doing her own thing. Even discovered towards the middle of the movie that her character is more complex because we find out that Trini Kwan in the 2017 Power Rangers movie is the first LGBTQ plus Power Ranger. She comes out and she basically says she's struggling with her sexuality and she doesn't know exactly where she fits, which is kind of the tone of the Power Rangers movie. A lot of the Rangers don't really know where they fit in all this, and still discovering themselves, as most teenagers do. Most teenagers are very confused about who they are. A lot of people saw this as pandering or just kind of throwing things in, but that really is like a reality, like, of growing up, is figuring out who you are. And part of that sometimes is sexuality. And I think a lot of people have a hard time bringing those two together, especially in a movie that's called Power Rangers. And the Power Rangers movie, while it was definitely had a lot of toys, you know, it was geared towards a younger audience. They were trying to go with a lot more, I want to say darker, but a lot more mature than what the TV show has gone for. We've all known that the TV show has been geared towards children 4 to 10, and mostly targeting boys. So we going from the Power Rangers show has a lot of, like, you know, slapstick comedy, and this movie was much more mature and was dealing with much more problems of growing teenage child, and that is becoming a soldier almost. A lot of people stepped on that. Now, there's a lot of details about the Power Ranger movies that people were having issues with as well, but kind of talking about Becky G. So Becky G, we talked about, Becky G was the most, I guess not the most, but she was probably the more well-known person out of that cast, out of the Power Rangers cast at that time. Now, after that, like we talked about, they all like blew up in different ways. But looking since then on what they've accomplished, Becky G is probably the most successful. So she went off, she did a couple more acting things, but then she really focused on her music. So she was like an English pop singer, and then she went to Latin music. She did reggaeton, but like hip hop, dance, and basically exploring all different types of Latin music. And she has gotten huge. I mean, like, sell out stadiums. She has like 37 million followers on Instagram. I mean, she is probably the most famous Power Ranger in the last 10 years for sure. And I don't want to compare this to especially like the original cast, especially the Mighty Morphin cast, because those actors, those people are immortalized. Like, there's always going to be, you know, talk about Jason David Frank, Austin St. John, Walter E. Jones, Tweet Train, Amy Jo Johnson, and David Yost. Like, those actors were absolutely perfect for what they were doing at that time. But as far as casting in the last 10 years for Power Rangers, like, it's kind of been all over the place. And to see some of the actors succeed after they're going on, it's been kind of like hit and miss, and it has been a lot of TV shows and stuff like that, but nothing like super, super huge. But Becky G, and especially this whole cast, like, has gotten super huge, but Becky G in particular has just gotten so entirely famous. And the thing is, like, she really hasn't even like looked down about her time on Power Rangers. Like, she thought it was really important. She talked about a couple years ago, like, she was honored to play Trini Kwan, and she was honored to be part of representation in that 2017 Power Rangers movie. And not only that, but the first real, you know, LGBTQ plus representation, the first official, definitely. And so, you know, she looks back on that time, and she doesn't like look down on it, which is really cool. Because, you know, a lot of people would think, you know, the Power Rangers thing, like, they try to separate themselves from Power Rangers if they're trying to go bigger than that. And we have seen that a lot of times. But to see that from Becky G and see her grow into the super mega star that she is, it's awesome. I mean, like, we can measure this on way different ways, on acting, on skills and stuff like that. And she did really good in that movie, but she was still like really young to it, right? And I know a lot of people say, like, well, she wasn't really part of it that much. I mean, she was one of 5 in that movie, and the point of view was from Billy in that movie. So, you know, and she really had her parts, and her parts shine. Like, what I think about the most is when Rita finds her at home and just like pins her against the wall and is just like taunting her, like, and like her portraying that fear, but also her portraying the complex emotions of, you know, not feeling like she belonged, and feeling so alone, and then, you know, being alone, and putting up that physical, not the physical, but like the emotional barrier, and not wanting to be friends with them, but eventually it coming down, and them all becoming part of a team, and her becoming an important part of the team, of course, as well, right? And they're all important parts of the team. So I think she showed early on what she could do in her range. Now, she hasn't really acted in a lot of roles since then. She's done like things here and there, and she's really focused on her music. But I think it would be really cool to see her come back in a big leading role, to see how she was back then to how she is now. But I'm still holding to it. Becky G is probably the most best casting that they've had in the last 10 years, and measuring on how successful they have been since then, and how well she has done and how well she has grown. And I know maybe we'll do a breakdown of the 2017 Power Rangers movie. There's opinions I have on it. I have opinions on it, like I said, but yes, that's where I am. And I really wanted to do this video because I am starting a very small Forever Yellow series. If you guys know, I had a great time at Retromania this weekend. I got to do the Legend of the White Dragon panel with Jenna Frank and Serena Vincent. I got to do the Forever Yellow panel with Tracy Lane Cruz, again Serena Vincent, and Time Force Yellow's Deborah Estelle Phillips. So I have a bunch of Yellow Ranger content coming out. So be ready and be ready on the lookout for that. All right, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Who do you think is the most important casting in the last 10 years in Power Rangers? Do you agree? Is it Becky G? Do you think it's somebody else from the 2017 Power Rangers team? Or do you think it's someone from the series? I mean, we're thinking like Hunter Dino. We got Tessa Rao most recently. Those are at the top of my head, right? Russell Curry. Of course, we got... I mean, if you want to go back to Ninja Steel, Dino Charge, and all that, we can discuss that as well. But I think the movie came out in 2017. I'm saying 10 years, 2014. So we're definitely talking like Samurai and Megaforce as well. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And y'all know what time it is. It's morphin' time.